Yo, what is good, Jets Nation? Welcome back to another Jets Media live stream. And today we got a special guest. It's the one and only Matt O'Leary. Welcome into the stream, my man. It's been a while. How you been, man?
Doing good. Just we were talking before getting started, and I was saying, like, I almost don't want this season to come to a close yet because I want to see more of our guy who we're going to be talking about today.
Exactly, man. You hit on the nail. Right when I realized that the next week is the last week of the season, it's really depressing. But in this one, we're going to be talking about number 2 throughout the entire stream. Talk about what Zach Wilson has shown Jets Nation in order to really go into the offseason with a lot of optimistic feelings about him. Because as we know, Zach Wilson started off the season, really rough, had a turnover problem. Nothing was really clicking. But now, after injury, he's been looking like the quarterback that we thought we were getting with the number 2 overall pick. And his talent is just being exuberated, especially coming off, in my opinion, Matt, his best game of his career against Tom Brady. And man, so before we get into Zach Wilson throughout the entire season, I want to hear your thoughts about Zach's game on Sunday against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What really stood out to you the most about Zach Wilson in that game against the Todd Bowles defense that is, as we know, very good and gives you crazy, exotic blitz looks pretty much every single time out there?
Yeah, I mean, you said it, but I agree with you. I think this was his best game as a pro, and I don't really think it's all that close. Like, I know the first half against the Eagles was really flashy, and then the second half against Tennessee, there were a ton of flashy plays. But from start to finish, I loved the confidence that Zach Wilson had. He was reading the defense really well, I thought, and he was just delivering throws that were popping off the page. I mean, I've seen you retweet clips or just so many people tweeting out clips of different throws. And I mean, it's impressive. It was more so the player that we saw at BYU, where earlier in the year, I think he was a little confidence shaken. But I didn't see that at all this week. And honestly, the most impressive part, this was probably his worst supporting cast. He didn't really have any of his main weapons outside of Braxton Berrios, who was phenomenal. But Jeff Smith drops. Oh my God, Keelan Cole, huge drop on third down. But even with everything against him, he still went out and had his best game as a pro. So I think I was impressed with that the most.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Shout out to Matt in the chat, NYJ Matt on Twitter. Welcome into the chat, my man. One of the best Twitter accounts out there. Appreciate you tuning in. And Matt, I really do agree with everything you said. The reason why I think that game against the Buccaneers was his best of the season, not statistically, but it's the type of throws that he made is more sustainable because, like you said, the Tennessee Titans game was absolutely ridiculous. He almost throws for 300 yards, gets a W against now the number 1 seed in the AFC, and they had Derrick Henry at the time. And what Zach Wilson showed in that Tennessee Titans game was awesome. But some Jets fans were thinking like, okay, well, that's not really sustainable. Like, we cannot rely on Zach Wilson to just roll to his right and throw bombs down the field in direct traffic all throughout his career, but that trait is awesome to have. But what we've been waiting to see Zach Wilson be able to do this season, which we haven't really seen on a consistent basis yet, is his ability to play within the structure of the offense, being on time with his players, and most importantly, staying within the pocket and having good mechanics and footwork. That's the one thing that I've been waiting to see from Zach Wilson, where I can look at his footwork and his mechanics and see improvement. And that's what we saw on Sunday. And it wasn't just one throw or 2 throws that we saw him stay within the pocket, plant his back foot and drive it. It was pretty much the entire game. He was very comfortable, no happy feet at all, looked very poised. And that's why I really am excited about Zach Wilson, is simply because the supporting cast around him, he does not have any chance to gain chemistry. Of course, he gets chemistry with Elijah Moore after injury. He has 2 good games with E. Moore, and then Elijah Moore gets on the injured reserve. Corey Davis, I think the beginning of the season, that was definitely his favorite target. Maybe he was force-feeding him a little too much, but now Corey Davis is out for the season, as we all know. And Jamison Crowder was a reliable guy. Now he's out. So Zach Wilson doesn't really get any chance to get chemistry with his guys, but now it seems like Braxton Berrios and the chemistry is through the roof because next man up mentality. So for Zach Wilson to be able to elevate the players around him is what really stood out to me the most. And I feel like that's something that I've been waiting to see all season long for Zach, having the ability to elevate his teammates around him, because that's what determines if you're a great quarterback or not. And you can tell, okay, if you're out there and say your playmakers around are still banged up, but you have the ability to elevate the players around him. So do you think that Zach Wilson showed that ability on Sunday?
Yeah, without a doubt. And you hit on it, and we both kind of did already. But just Elijah Moore, was developing into a stud this year, unfortunately gets banged up and isn't able to play the last couple of games. Maybe he'll play on Sunday, which would be great to see him. But so that you take that away from him. Jamison Crowder, as you said, I mean, is he a phenomenal receiver? No, but he's a really solid, steady slot guy and someone who's reliable, especially on third down. Take that away. Corey Davis, your biggest free agent acquisition at the position, take that away. It's just one thing after the next, and he was definitely, put in a rough spot. And another thing too, like the offensive line, they were playing with a ton of backups too. So with Sam, a lot of times, early on in his career, especially, the weapons weren't there and the line wasn't there. And one of the things he wasn't able to do, unfortunately, was elevate people around him. And I'm hoping that we're seeing it a little bit with Zach right now, and I'm hoping that continues as he develops more as a pure passer.
Yeah, so definitely on Sunday, we saw Zach Wilson have his best game, and I think that the number one thing that he showed us is poised, comfortability, and playing within the offense. And the thing that got me the most excited about this game is thinking about year number 2 of Zach Wilson in the same system, the continuity factor of LaFleur, because LaFleur developed probably the most out of any person in this entire organization this year. And I'm so excited to see what Zach Wilson can do with not only himself improving, but that Joe Douglas is going to go out there. I know that you and I both agree that we need to get a receiver in the first round, but we'll see what happens. But adding playmakers around Zach Wilson, going into year number 2 in the same system, is comfortability. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we got a quick donation from Rich Julie Brady. Appreciate that. You guys almost had me there. Almost. Respect, though. Oh, this is a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. Yeah, man, we almost got you. We were beating you the entire game, literally the entire game, until we just gave it to the GOAT. And, yeah, have fun. But, hey, we still fought to the end, and that's all I can ask about that. But appreciate the donation, my man. Good luck to your Bucks. And Matt has a question, NYJ Matt. What is the number one thing you want Zach Wilson to focus on during the offseason? So, Matt, I'll let you answer this one.
Yeah, and I definitely think it's something that my answer is going to be something that he's already kind of improved on a little bit, but it's something that he can continue to. And it's not holding on to the ball for as long, like reading the defense, reacting, and making your read right away. I think if he does that more so, I think that will take his game to the next level, because some of the things early on in the year where he was missing some of the underneath stuff, I truly think that was a confidence issue, and we're starting to see that go away. And I think just the more reps he'll get, the less likely you'll see those kinds of plays. So really, I just want to see him continue to get the ball out quick and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think when Zach was going through the motions and he was not looking like a good quarterback throughout the season, I made a video, and I think the reason why he was struggling, and you can see why he's successful now, it's because back then, you just mentioned it, he did not have confidence within himself. If you go back and watch his BYU tape, obviously he's going up against lesser competition. Yeah, we understand that. But Zach Wilson exuberated confidence. He had swagger to him. Every time he went on the field, he just knew where he was going with the football. He kind of had a presence to him. He's like, I mastered this offensive system. I know I'm going to absolutely light you up every single time. And it's going to take a little while for Zach Wilson to gain that confidence, especially because he's learning not only the NFL game, but a complex playbook with Mike LaFleur. And now we're seeing the confidence and the comfortability within him, and that's making him make those quick decisions. So I think that's something he needs to work on the offseason, is definitely getting rid of the ball quickly. And when it comes to fundamentals and mechanics, I saw a huge improvement. To be honest, I didn't expect his mechanics and his footwork to take a huge leap at the end of his rookie season, because I felt like he needed an entire offseason to work on it. But I was wrong. Ever since we hired Beck to be his personal coach, his fundamentals and mechanics have been getting better and better every single game. So that's the number one thing I would like him to work on as well in the offseason, is making sure his footwork and his mechanics and everything is good, because there was some times where he would, throw off his back foot a little too much, have happy feet. The mechanics weren't there, would rely on his arm talent a little too much, not really step into his throws. And hey, he's going to do that because when you have the arm talent that he has, he can get away with it at times. But at sometimes earlier in the season, he kind of relied on it a little too much. So I would like to see him really work on that footwork. And we saw on Sunday, like, all you got to do is go look at that film against the Buccaneers. And that's exactly what Zach Wilson needs to do on a consistent basis. And I think that we got a special player in Zach Wilson. Are there any throws on Sunday that really stood out to you, Matt, in particular, that you remember against the Buccaneers that was just like something that was like blew you away in terms like you didn't see that from him this year yet?
Yeah, there were a couple. So the one where he threw from like almost the 3/4 arm angle and put really low to I think it was it Keelan Cole or Braxton Berrios for the first down. Yeah, it was Berrios. The other one to Cole on the goal line was a nice one too. But the one with the different arm angle jumped out because that reminded me more of what we saw at BYU. And then kind of like I feel like this one's going under the radar, but the screen pass to Ty Johnson where he flipped it over Vita Vea, I think that's incomplete like early in the week. I think he just panics and kind of throws it at his feet. But he was able to realize, okay, I'm going to take a huge hit here, but I'm going to float it over the top of him and get it to my guy. And it turns into a huge gain. Like that's what was missing from early on in the season. And now he's more confident. He's trusting himself. He's trusting his reads. And that's the result. So I was really impressed with that too.
Yeah, the funny thing about that is, Jets fans are very critical with Zach when he's missing the easy throws. But then when he makes the easy throw, it's like, yeah, whatever. He's supposed to do that. Well, it's a good sign that he's finally progressing, because that was a big, big worry with Zach Wilson this season, was he's not hitting those short intermediate passes that look like layups. Well, that was a confidence factor that you alluded to. I think it's more of a mindset thing where his feet, his hips, his shoulders, and his arm, and his brain are not aligned when he doesn't have confidence. And now we're seeing him take that big step. So Zach Wilson is currently on a 4-game no interception streak, as Eddie says right now. He's turned down the turnovers. Turnovers are not there anymore. Here are Zach Wilson's stats actually in the last, which one is it? 7 games, I believe. He has 8 total touchdowns to 2 interceptions. So Zach Wilson went down with the PCL injury, and he got to sit back and watch Mike White just take over the offense and throw for 400 yards and get the W. He saw even Josh Johnson go out there in primetime football and actually put up a really good amount of numbers. And then Joe Flacco went out there against the Dolphins and put up a decent stat line. So do you think that injury is a big reason why Zach Wilson was able to progress this season? And what do you think, about the comparisons between his first half and then post-injury for Zach Wilson?
Yeah, I think sitting may have helped him there, and just kind of take a mental break, because they were getting crushed early in the year, and they were getting blown out. And another thing that I've liked in the second half of this year, really outside of the Buffalo game, they haven't been getting blown out. They've been in these games. But the thing that I think frustrated me early in the year was that Zach never had an issue of turning the ball over at BYU. It wasn't like when Darnold was coming in, he had turnover problems at USC, but the thought was he can grow out of that. Deshaun Watson coming out of Clemson had some turnover issues. He grew out of that. But with Wilson, he was one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the class. So it was very puzzling. But to see him finally get it right, it starts to show like, okay, this could be this guy's ceiling. And like, it's impressive for a rookie to go out against some of these defenses and not turn the ball over. Tampa Bay in particular, this week against Buffalo is going to be a huge test. This is the best pass defense in the league. So it's going to be a massive, massive test for him. And if he goes out and again, doesn't turn the ball over, and even if he just manages the game and puts up like decent numbers, not anything super flashy, then that's a win in my book, because that shows that he's maturing and growing and really seeing what's in front of him.
Yeah, exactly. So what about Zach Wilson in particular should give Jets fans a lot of excitement for the future? Like, not necessarily this week, maybe not even year 2, but what traits has Zach Wilson showed us in his rookie season that you think he can develop over time? And obviously, we're not going to prematurely crown Zach Wilson as the franchise quarterback for the next 15 years yet. I'm not going to do that, but I still think that he has every single chance to do just that. But what about Zach Wilson this season should give Jets fans a lot of optimism heading into this offseason about the future of maybe in year number 2 with with LaFleur and that system, adding more playmakers around him? Like, what qualities does Zach Wilson have that really differentiates himself from other quarterbacks around the league?
I think it's the arm strength is the biggest one because we saw it even like that even flashed early in the year, but when he was missing some of the underneath stuff and some of the gimme throws, it was frustrating because he was like, how could you make like that crazy play to Corey Davis in the Tennessee game, but you can't hit a 5 yard dump off? It doesn't make any sense. But once he's kind of gotten that under control, and I don't even think we've really seen him attack down the field as much in these recent weeks, which I'm okay with because he's kind of like mastering or at least improving on some of the more everyday kind of a throws. But to me, it's the arm strength and the deep ball ability. So I think we'll see that continue to develop. And I think if you get a real deep threat on the outside, either in the draft or in free agency, that can make a huge difference for this offense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, his arm strength is on full display. That throw that he had to Keelan Cole at the goal line was just an absolute piss missile. Should have been a touchdown if Keelan Cole was just, aggressive enough to, put the ball over the pylon, but good defensive play over there. But another thing that I personally believe that Zach Wilson has the ability to do, which is a very underrated piece to his game that not a lot of even Jets fans or NFL fans talk about, is his athleticism. His ability, I will say this with confidence, that he has elite escapability within the pocket in terms of making people miss when they're trying to bring him down. Like, I got confidence when I see a big fella go at Zach Wilson behind the line of scrimmage that he's going to just plant his foot in the ground and make him miss and force something, with his legs. And, I'm happy that he finally had a breakout performance in terms of picking up yards on the ground last week, or 2 weeks ago now, with that 91-yard gain. That 91-yard game, he had that 52-yard touchdown on the ground. And I feel like I always said that about Zach Wilson to my friend Jack and everybody. I'm like, yo, like, if you look at his tape at BYU, like, he's an athlete. He can run the ball. He should start tucking and running more often. And he's not doing that. I don't know what the issue is. Maybe he doesn't feel comfortable in the NFL. Well, the best thing about that is Mike LaFleur challenged Zach Wilson. He said, hey, when it's man-to-man coverage, there's opportunities for you to pick up yards, and you're not doing it. Please, I'm going to challenge you and make sure you do that. And that's exactly what Zach Wilson did against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's really underrated piece to his game that I think he has is, number one, making people miss behind the line of scrimmage to avoid pressure and picking up yardage with his on the ground. I mean, he has 4 rushing touchdowns this season. So what are your thoughts about Zach Wilson in terms of his athletic ability? And you think that's a very underrated piece to his game?
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought, especially early on, he should use his legs more. And I'm not saying he's got to run for 90 plus yards every week, or he doesn't have to be Lamar Jackson or anything like that. But his legs are just something that he wasn't utilizing enough. But we saw it. Like, when the play breaks down, it's okay. You don't have to force the ball. You could run for 5 yards, slide, and just, keep sustain movement. And so you don't have these stagnant drives or taking sacks. But yeah, the play against Jacksonville on that touchdown run, to me, that was the most impressive run that he's had all year. Just one, the ability to escape, like you said, I agree. I think it is elite. But then to make people miss in open field, I think his athletic ability is underrated. And I think we see that more next year.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's really refreshing. I'm happy you had that one game to show that not only that 52-yard touchdown run, but on 4th and 2, when they're near the goal line, I think it was like the 25-yard line, he had instant pressure up the middle, and he rolled to his right, he pump faked, and then he skirted around, pick up the first down with his legs that set up 1st and goal. And it's really good to see Zach Wilson get comfortable using his legs because he's an athlete. And if you look at BYU, I think he had 10 rushing touchdowns last year. So we got a nice donation from Eddie. I'm prematurely going to crown Zach as the franchise quarterback for the next 15 years. I love the confidence, Eddie. There's nothing wrong with this take. Matt, are you going to crown Zach Wilson as the franchise quarterback for the next 15 years?
I'm not ready to say that right now, just because I feel like I got burned with Darnold because I was very confident with him after the first year going into the second and in the second year too. So while I love what I see from Zach, I loved Zach as a prospect coming out of BYU. I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. I learned from my mistakes. I told myself no matter how good Zach looks this year, I'm not going to prematurely crown him as the guy for the next 15 years just yet because I had so much optimism for Sam and we're all crushed. But there's totally different players. I think Zach has way more of a brighter future than Sam Darnold in this league. I think we can all agree about just that. So when it comes to this week now against the Buffalo Bills, how do you want Zach Wilson to finish off the season? Because as you said, they're going up against the number 1 passing defense in the NFL. The Buffalo Bills have something to play for because they want to win the division. And we're going to be in Buffalo. Could be snowy, could be ice cold, could be windy. We don't know what the weather's going to be. And we're hopeful that Elijah Moore can be back. Jamison Crowder is officially back. Braxton Berrios is now banged up. So hopefully some type of playmakers can get healthy around him. I think Michael Carter, they're hopeful that he'll be back as well. So what do you want to see from Zach Wilson on this Sunday, realistically speaking, that should give us a lot of even more excitement heading into the offseason?
Honestly, my expectations are kind of modest. I would almost said low, but that kind of has like a negative connotation. Like, I don't think he's going to have a bad game. I would just be happy if he's doesn't implode. Like, if he throws a couple interceptions, then that kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth. But even if he goes out and throws for, I don't know, 180, 200 yards, a touchdown, one touchdown, no interceptions, and is like plays to an 80 passer rating, then okay. That's kind of shown me that you've progressed in the second half of the year. You're much more smart with the football. You're not taking, risky plays against, a much better team. And if the Jets don't get blown out, like if they're hanging around and maybe, you lose 30-20 instead of 30-6, then I think you could take that as a positive going into next year.
Yeah, so you're committed. You're just already thinking the Jets defense can give up 30 plus. That's already a given.
It really is. Like, I hate to say that like this far out. Like, I just don't have the confidence. The last time they played Buffalo, it was really bad. I felt like they were lucky to keep Tampa Bay under 30 points. And like you said, they have a lot to play for, the Bills. They're still fighting for the division. Allen didn't look that good last week, so I think he wants to bounce back. And I don't think it's going to be a good day on defense.
Yeah, I agree. Guys, make sure you smash the thumbs up button. If you're just tuning into the stream, Matt O'Leary is joining the show. If you guys don't know who Matt is, but I'm sure you guys are if you're active here on YouTube, make sure you guys go subscribe down below. The link is in the description of Matt O'Leary's YouTube channel. Covers all things Jets. Got a great podcast and all great things. So in this one, we're talking about Zach Wilson and what we want to see from him throughout the rest of the season. So my next question for you, Matt, we're going to talk about the offseason. And the offseason is going to be all about Zach Wilson. So what do the Jets need to do, whether it's specific players in the draft, specific players in free agency, or even in the trade market? What does Joe Douglas need to do to really help Zach Wilson take that next step next year? Because I think we can all agree we have foundational pieces already around him with Elijah Vera-Tucker at left guard, with Michael Carter at running back, Elijah Moore at the wide receiver spot, all in the same draft class, which is just absolutely amazing. So what do you want to see from this offseason from Joe Douglas in terms of just about the offense and surrounding talent around Zach Wilson?
Yeah, so last year we really saw him put an emphasis on the offensive line, and it did get significantly better this year. They had a lot more depth. And I think you need to continue to add to that. You definitely need, I think, at least a starter on the interior at right guard. And whether that is through the draft or through free agency, I do think you need to add more depth to, really round out this offensive line. But tight end is a huge need. I don't really like their tight end room at all right now. I think you need to sign someone and draft someone. The player that I like a lot is Dalton Schultz from the Dallas Cowboys. I think he is a really underrated tight end. Actually, he's not only can he catch, but he's a really good blocker. Tight ends like Mike Gesicki, they're kind of more like a big receiver. They don't really block, so I don't think it's a good fit for this team. And at wide receiver, I'm looking to add one more big piece. And I think with the Seattle pick, you could draft a Jameson Williams or a Treylon Burks or something like that and really, go all in on this offense around Zach Wilson. I think you have to continue to add weapons around him.
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. I think the Jets, when it comes to the tight end room, they need to sign and draft. I would redo the entire room. And I think Kenny Yeboah might get some burn this week, which is exciting because I think Jets fans were hyping him up a lot in the offseason when we got him as an undrafted free agent. He had two big catches last week, so hopefully he can get the start this week. But when it comes to the offseason, I couldn't agree more with you. When it comes to the tight end room, Schultz is high on my list. Go out there, give him the bag, use some cap space on that tight end room because it's just been so bad for so long, and we need an absolutely big impact player. And then draft another tight end, maybe in day number 2 in the draft. You got to be able to bring in talent because that's the missing piece. I think we have confidence in the running back room with Michael Carter. Tevin Coleman stepped up. I do think that I would like to draft a running back this draft again, maybe late, like 5th round, 6th round, just to add more depth. And I definitely want to draft a wide receiver with that Seattle pick as well. I know that's a very big controversial topic amongst Jets fans on if we should draft a receiver, should we go all defense? Because what's your opinion about that. So Jets fans are saying the defense is so bad, which it is. And they want to use those 2 first-round picks on defense and then, focus on the offense because the foundation's already there and they don't really feel like, the defense is way behind the offense. That's really their mindset. So what would you say to those people that are saying that we should take more defensive approach on the draft rather than offense?
I definitely I hear that the defense is bad. I'm not going to deny that, but I would say that you have to use free agency to supplement your roster too. So I'm hoping that Joe Douglas is spending at linebacker, at corner, and safety, so that you don't have to use all of your premium picks on that side of the ball. I think you have to have a balanced plan because while they took great strides on offense, they're up to I think 21, which is just a massive difference after the last 2 years when you're stuck at 32. That's still not enough. You need to add more. And I mean, I don't want to get complacent with the young quarterback. I'm glad that he's growing, but you have to continue to make his life easier as well. So I hear you. The defense is not good. They need help at edge, linebacker, corner, safety. I get it, but it can't just be all, going to draft every single player on the defense. I think you need to have more of a balanced approach.
So when it comes to the playmakers around Zach Wilson this year, how do you feel about them? Elijah Moore, what are your thoughts about his performance this year? Corey Davis, obviously he was the big acquisition free agency wise. He kind of had a really good start to the year, and then he just absolutely, started having bad games, had a lot of drops, and the Jets fans are questioning his ability, and then he goes out for the season. Braxton Berrios has emerged as, the Jets fan favorite because he's the only one that stayed healthy all season long, was productive every time his name was called. And then the running back room as well. Michael Carter, I think Jets fans can say with confidence that he's going to be here for a while and everything that he's brought to the table. So what are your thoughts about the playmakers around Zach Wilson, especially when it comes to the future?
Yeah, so I'll start with the positive. Elijah Moore, I think, is going to be a really dynamic player. He was already kind of showing signs of that. I think he's proving that he's more than just a slot receiver. I think if he's healthy for all 17 games next year, he puts up a big year and could be close to an 1,000-yard receiver. Braxton Berrios, another one that I was very, in a way, surprised. I thought he would have more of a depth role, but he played a lot more than I thought he would because of 1, injuries, and then 2, people underperforming in front of him. I'm going to hold off on the negatives for a little bit. At running back, I am thrilled with Michael Carter. I think he is a running back 1. I would like to add another maybe bruising running back to kind of balance that a little bit. But I think he is a building block piece on this offensive side. Corey Davis disappointed me a little bit because I thought he was inconsistent and drops were a major issue, which he was brought in here to be a contested catch guy, and he just really didn't do that for his young quarterback. Denzel Mims, who I was a massive fan of, it was non-existent this year for whatever reason. I don't get it, but he was just a non-factor. And then who else did I want to talk about? Who was a negative? There was somebody else. I already blanked on it. Oh, Ty Johnson's drops. That frustrated me. So he would be my negative too.
Yeah, so I agree. I think that there's more positive than negative coming out of the playmakers around Zach Wilson this year, but that doesn't tell you that Joe Douglas shouldn't go out there and add explosive playmakers around him. Go get Garrett Wilson. Go get Jameson Williams. Please, Joe Douglas, just use that Seattle pick on a receiver. Can we just imagine for a second, close our eyes and visualize Zach Wilson having Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Jameson Williams, and Braxton Berrios, and then maybe another depth piece, veteran, or we draft another one later on in the draft, because I'm seeing what the Cincinnati Bengals are doing. And that's the team I'm like, okay, they're doing it right. They're surrounding their young quarterback. And Joe Burrow's only in year number 2, and he is winning the division. They're in the playoffs. We beat them. Thank you, Mike White. And I just feel like that is a formula that could be set up for a really good opportunity for the Jets to take advantage of that, because I feel like the offensive line has made a huge step this year. Joe Douglas deserves so much credit with the offensive line that we have. All the injuries that we've suffered, this offensive line does not miss a beat no matter who's in there, whether it's George Fant, probably the most underappreciated player on this entire Jets team. I love Elijah Vera Tucker as a rookie was great. Connor McGovern at center was awesome. GVR was terrible. And then Joe Douglas understood that, flipped Daniel Brown for LDT, and then Daniel Brown comes back and then Morgan Moses, and then even Dan Feeney stepping in, being good in the run game. So what's your overall thoughts about this offensive line as a whole in going into next year? I know that you mentioned you want to upgrade the right guard position, and that's another question I have. Would you want LDT to be brought back here as a potential guy to compete for that right guard spot, or you like them to move on from him?
No, I would like to bring him back. I would want him kind of more in like a depth role, because I think you could improve there. But as we see every single year, there's injuries, so you have to have more than just a formidable starting group. You have to have good depth, and thank God the Jets did, because they had George Fant, who's been phenomenal at left tackle. Morgan Moses stepped in and has been steady at right tackle. And I think Mekhi Becton coming back next year, I think some fans have really forgotten just how good he was as a rookie. I think he's going to be a really good player. And whether that's if he's back at left tackle, or if you want to keep Fant there and play Mekhi at right tackle, there's probably a world where you can do that. But I definitely think that the offensive line still needs some more work. It's significantly improved, but until it's a top 12 unit in this league, I'm not satisfied.
Yeah, I agree. I'm happy that you brought up Mekhi Becton, because that's a very polarizing subject amongst Jets fans. Like, just because the unfortunate reality of Greg Van Roten being a bad football player, and he's the one that injured Mekhi Becton on that touchdown that Zach Wilson had in his first game against the Carolina Panthers, people forget about his dominance as a rookie. And I think we all know that the question mark around Mekhi Becton when we drafted him was he's boom or bust. And the bust factor is the only thing, and that is his injury problems. And now we're seeing that he got banged up and was not able to come back. And people forget how dominant of a player he is. And if I'm the Jets, I would rather them put him back at left tackle, because it's not like we've seen Mekhi Becton not play good at that position. It's just we haven't seen him stay healthy. So if I'm the Jets next year, if he's all healthy, put him back at left tackle, Fant at right tackle. And if he starts to play poorly and he's not playing and Zach Wilson's getting sacked all the time, like, okay, then you make the change there. But I really feel like Mekhi Becton is still the franchise left tackle in my eyes until he proves me otherwise, and not being able to be on the field. Like, until Becton goes on the field and shows me he's just not good anymore like he was as a rookie, then I'll be able to admit, like, okay, we might need to move on from him, might need to upgrade that position, because I still feel like Mekhi Becton has the potential to be a dominant tackle in the NFL. And I'm excited for his future, but the durability is definitely one major issue. So another thing I want to talk about, which we haven't really broke down, is LaFleur. What's your thoughts about Mike LaFleur's offensive coordinator rookie season with the New York Jets? Because we all know earlier in the season, some Jets fans are calling for his head. He's on the sidelines. The offense is stale. It's stunk. It's not good. And then all of a sudden he goes up into the booth and he becomes probably the most creative offensive mind I've seen as a Jets fan in quite some time, with the creative trick plays, with all these awesome things that I've just never seen before. So what are your thoughts about Mike LaFleur, and what are you expecting from him moving forward?
Yeah, early in the year, fans were not happy with him, and I get it. There were struggles, but pretty much ever since the end of October, he's been, I think, phenomenal. Probably the Jets' best play caller since 2015, Chan Gailey. And I'm thrilled with what he's done with the pieces that are around him, because we ran through, you lose your left tackle for the season in the first game of the year. Corey Davis gets hurt. Michael Carter missed significant time. Elijah Moore missed significant time. Crowder, you go right down the line, but I think he's done a nice job of utilizing what he has and getting the most out of them, like Braxton Berrios, for example. And also his trick plays, getting creative. I thought one of my biggest criticisms with the Adam Gase offense was that it was very stale. It was boring. Mike LaFleur brings in a 21st century offense to the New York Jets, which is something they haven't had seemingly in a very long time.
Yeah, I think that Mike LaFleur has developed over time to the point where we're like, now we're thinking maybe he will get that head coaching job that we were so worried about. Because remember that? We hired him like, oh, why are the Jets hiring him? He's going to get a head coaching job in 3 years. That's a bad idea. Are you kidding me? We're hoping that he gets a head coaching job, because you know what that means? If Mike LaFleur is getting a head coaching job, that means that the Jets have a top 5 offense in the NFL. Are you kidding me? That is absolutely phenomenal. Mike LaFleur is becoming a very good piece to this Jets offense moving forward. And now we're going to have to unfortunately go into the negative side of things, because we haven't talked about this player, and that's Denzel Mims. So Denzel Mims, Denzel Mims. Jets fans, I think we're all in agreement on him at this point. I had a lot of high hopes for him when we drafted him. I believe you were as well, and a lot of Jets fans had high expectations for him. He shows flashes last year. This year, we're like, all right, he's out of the Adam Gase era. And then all of a sudden, training camp comes around. He's got food poisoning. The beat's telling us that he's not respected by the coaches. And we're saying free Mims, free Mims. He gets his opportunities and he just doesn't come through. And then he's coming off being benched for Jeff Smith. So what's your thoughts about Denzel Mims? And do you think he has any future on this team?
It's hard to see one. It really is. And I was such a huge Mims guy. Since he's been at Baylor, I thought he was someone who was going to go in the first round. I think he's extremely, I think there's talent there. That's what frustrates me the most too. Cause we saw it last year. He was a really good player in the worst offense in football. And for whatever reason this year, it's almost like the Chris Herndon effect where they had a promising rookie year and then injuries or something just derails them in the second year and they can't figure it out. Well, Herndon hasn't been able to. I'm rooting for Mims. I hope he is able to figure it out. If it is with the Jets, great. I think it's probably going to have to be somewhere else though, because there's people that passed him on the depth chart already, like Braxton Berrios. And I don't think you can go into next year relying on him to be a part of this team. I think you need to improve on that position. Which is sad because a year ago, if you asked me that question, I would have told you that he was going to be, one of the Jets starting receivers for years to come, but things change quickly, unfortunately, in this league.
Yeah, things do change quickly. And the reason why I believe that Denzel Mims does not have a future on this team even next year is simply because of the coaching staff. I feel the disconnect between the coaching staff and Denzel. I don't know what the reason is. Maybe there's stuff behind the scenes that we don't see, obviously, that the coaching staff does see. And they don't really. I think the problem with Denzel is he's physically talented, but the mind is not there. And that's the most underrated piece to any athlete in any sport. If your mind is not at 100%, you don't have the passion, the love for the game. Doesn't matter how physically talented you are. And I feel like Denzel just lacks that, all gas, no break mentality that Robert Saleh likes to preach all the time. So do you think Denzel will potentially be cut at like the end of training camp, or do you think they're going to try to move on from him, right away and try to trade him? Like, what do you think they're going to do with him? Or do you think they're going to try to roll the dice and give him another opportunity in the offense?
My guess, because his value is in the tank. I don't think you can really trade and get anything there. So my guess would be next training camp is do or die for him. And if he's struggling again, then he's going to get cut, unfortunately. But if he shows what he did at Baylor and year one, then you say, okay, maybe there is something there, and you keep him on the roster because you'll be cheap and it doesn't, it just kind of adds more depth there. But like I said, you can't go into next year with your plan as, oh, he is going to, be fine and could move up the depth chart with more than likely Jamison Crowder and Keelan Cole gone. I think you need to either add a big name in free agency or draft a receiver early. But yeah, I've been extremely disappointed with Denzel. I had high hopes for him this year.
Yeah, I had such high hopes. I kept defending him. I kept saying free Mims. And then, he goes out there and he doesn't, he got 3 starts and like 1 catch across those 3 games. I don't know what the problem is, but it's really hard for me to have any, hopefulness that he's going to get this thing turned around and become an impactful player. I agree. I think that the Jets should give him another training camp and sees what happened there. We got a nice donation from Nose Kills. Appreciate the dono. Not that they're vital, but with Zach's arm, I would have expected more long end zone passes this year. Reason: A, play calling; B, respecting his arm; C, wide receiver skill set; D, Zach earring on safe side; E, poor pass protection. So what are your thoughts about this take from Nose Kills, Matt?
Yeah, we really haven't seen a whole lot of it. But I don't necessarily, I agree with him. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it was more of when he came back from injury, it was getting the little things right. Next year, I would expect to see more just because with his arm strength and with his deep ball accuracy, I just think it would be an element to this offense that would be, a worthy one to implement a little more.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I don't really think that we've seen Zach Wilson stretch the field as much as we thought we would, especially after that Tennessee Titans game. Like that was the game where he had multiple bombs down the field, and he hasn't really attempted any big time throws. And whether that's the coaching, whether that's the playmakers not being able to get open down the field, we don't know. But hey, that's why I'm all in on getting another playmaker like Jameson Williams that can stretch the field and go down the field and just absolutely, be open down the field. Because we know Elijah Moore has that ability, but we shall see what happens. So we're gonna start finishing off the stream here, but we're gonna quickly open it up to a Jets Q&A, guys. Any questions about Zach Wilson? Any questions about the Jets? Feel free to let me and Matt and myself know in the chat, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. There's so many things that we dissected, Matt, whether it's the progression of Zach Wilson, the detail of his mind, his body, his arm strength, his arm talent, his footwork. Everything has been trending in the right direction. And I'm just so excited that Zach Wilson is proving to be, probably, I don't know. I want to ask you this question now that I'm thinking about it in my mind. Where do you think he would rank amongst the rookie quarterbacks this year?
Second. I think Mac Jones is definitely one. Put in a perfect situation for the most part. It played well. I don't want to take anything away from him. But, it's just I don't like how he's covered. That's why I think it bugs me.
Yeah, I know.
Trevor Lawrence, man, really struggled. He's in a brutal situation. Fields got hurt. I think it's Wilson too. What about you?
Yeah, man. I think Zach Wilson I'll say this. I think Zach Wilson has shown the most impressive wow throws this year. In terms of that Tennessee Titans game, the game yesterday, that run that he had was the longest touchdown run by a quarterback since 2015. So I think that Zach has shown the most flashes of like, whoa, if he can do that consistently, he's going to be legit in this league. And I think number two is definitely a realistic approach. Mac Jones, it's hard not to say Mac because he's going to be in the playoffs and his numbers are great. But then you watch the games, you see it's more of the system. But you got to give Mac Jones credit. I think he's going to be a guy. And even the Patriots fans that I go collab with, Ray, he always says this. The thing about Mac Jones that he realizes is, and even compares it to Zach Wilson, he says that he feels like this is the best Mac Jones will get. Like his ceiling is not through the roof. Like he's not going to get progressively better and better. Like what Mac Jones is going to bring you is a game manager, a really intelligent quarterback that knows the system well and knows where to put the football, which is exactly what Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels is looking for. On the other hand, Zach Wilson, it's kind of like the potential's through the roof, but he needs to put it all together in order to get to that level. So we will see. So we got a question from Prestige Shogun. I have a question for both of you. Do you think it's wise to pass to O-line in free agency and take a receiver in the first round? What do you think about this one, Matt?
You could tell me on that. Like the funny thing is, with both free agency and the draft, I don't really have like one dead set plan that I'm on. Kind of like 2 years ago when it was like, okay, the Jets have to draft an offensive lineman. You got to protect Sam Darnold, and then it ended up being Zach Wilson. But you knew that in 2020 they were drafting an offensive lineman. To me, I think you could go about it a couple of different ways. Of the two options, I guess I would prefer to go O-line in free agency and take wide receiver in round one than the inverse of that, just because I think you could get better value on wide receiver in the draft than having to pay. Like, I love Davante Adams, but what is it going to take him to come here? $25 million a year? Like, that's just insane money for a wide receiver, where we listed off a bunch of guys who you can grab and have your pick of the litter with the Seattle pick.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I don't really know if I want the Jets to go big in free agency for a wide receiver, simply because we're already paying Corey Davis a decent chunk of change, which is why I'm all in on drafting a receiver high in the draft. And hey, maybe it's defense, and then second round is a receiver, or, you want to get an offensive lineman and an edge rusher in the first round and then getting a receiver because, hey, we got Elijah Moore in the second round. Look how that panned out. But we got Denzel in the second round, and you can't really compare the two. So I do want to see Joe Douglas draft an offensive lineman in the draft. We do have 2 first-round picks, guys, but that's not the only picks that we got. We got two seconds, and we got a lot of capital. And, hey, maybe Joe Douglas wants to get some of that capital back from what he traded up to get AVT. Maybe he sees somebody on this draft board that he likes around 14, 15, and he trades that Seattle pick, and he goes back, and he gets more capital, and then he picks up a receiver at that spot. And we still have the ability to, plug in the holes on this roster. There's so many different avenues for the Jets to go about this offseason, and there's so many things that we're going to be talking about it. There's so many hypotheticals, and that's what's so great about the offseason, especially for us Jets fans. We're always like debating, no, this player, no, that player stinks. No, are you kidding me? Did you watch his highlights? Yeah, watch his highlights. We all butt heads, especially last year when it came to the quarterback controversy.
Oh my God. I'm so glad that we don't have to go through another one of those. I couldn't do it again for another, whatever it is, 5 months until the draft.
That's exactly what my friend Jack said. I'm like, yo, you excited for the mock draft season? He's like, to be honest, I am, because we don't have to worry about getting a damn quarterback, and we don't have to go through all the hell that we went through all throughout the off season, because that was definitely a little, sickening. Clifford, what's up, my man? Great show, Richie and Matt. The show continues to get better and better. Clifford, I appreciate you. I remember meeting you at the party. I really do appreciate you, my man. Appreciate the support. Hope all is well with you and your family. Hutchinson hype died? I don't think so. I think he had one bad game. Not really bad game. He went up against a tough opponent, and all of a sudden hype is dead. Hey, actually, yeah, hype is dead. Let him fall to 4.
That's what I'm saying, man. We gotta hype is dead, and we gotta pump up these quarterbacks and maybe talk one of these teams into trading up for a quarterback.
Yeah, man, you never know what could happen. Someone can fall in love with these quarterbacks, jump in front of the Jets, and then all of a sudden we got Thibodeaux or Hutchinson available. If either of those guys are available at 4, you pulling the trigger?
I don't think twice. Absolutely.
What about that other guy, Karafoulis, however you say
Oh,
his
George.
name?
I'm a huge George Karlaftis fan. I would take him at 4. I know that that's a hot take for some. They don't like the value there, but I like him a lot. I would take him that high.
Yeah, me too, man. I think this Jets draft is going to be so much fun for so many reasons. I mean, the draft capital is probably the most thing that gives Jets fans excited. We got 4 picks in the top, 40, 45? Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. So in a perfect draft, give me, maybe not the players, but maybe positions of those 4 picks that you want to see Joe Douglas acquire. If you want to bring it, talk about players, you can as well.
Ooh, okay. I would probably go edge in this order: edge, wide receiver, linebacker, safety.
Okay, I like it. See, it's so hard because we have so many needs. So it's like, wait, damn it, we need a tight end. Oh, wait, we still need an offensive line. It's like, it's tough, but I would love a linebacker and a safety in the second round. I think that's something that, you can sell me on. I think those are the 2 positions on this defense that we are missing the most. And I have an interesting question to you that I tweeted it out, and it could be controversial as well, but what isn't on Jets Twitter? So I'm starting to fall in love with Brandon Echols a little bit. He's really showing up, and I think that he has a future on this team, and I think that he's going to be more likely a depth piece. I think that the Jets should go out there in the offseason and upgrade that position alongside Bryce Hall. But I do feel like Brandon Echols deserves some consideration in terms of keeping that starting job, just based on how he's played this year as a rookie. I don't think they're going to do that. I think it'll be the right decision to upgrade his position, and he'll be more of a depth piece. But what's your thoughts about Brandon Echols potentially being a starter next year, or just in general his future on this team?
So I want to start by saying I've been really impressed with what we've seen, especially where the Jets got him. He hasn't been perfect, but he's absolutely played above the expectation that I had for him. He's been steady. To me, I think I'd like it if he was more of a number, like your number 4 corner with Michael Carter as a slot, and then get somebody else, maybe in free agency, to play on the other side of Hall. But I mean, I said it earlier with the offensive line, injuries happen. Like those 3 guys probably aren't going to play all 17 games next year. And I do feel comfortable with Echols rotating in at that point. So I think they do bring in a corner piece in free agency. And I mean, maybe he competes for a starting job, but I don't think he should just be handed the starting job next year.
Yeah, I agree. Devin with the $5 donation. Appreciate it, my man. This is a good question. How would you guys compare Zach's late season success to Sam's late season success, his rookie year? And let's go Texans this week. Yes, sir. We're Houston Texans fans. So what's your thoughts about this one?
They're in a way different, because with Sam, he had some games with like flashy numbers, like the Green Bay game. He went well over 300 yards. I think he had 2 or 3 touchdowns in that game, where Zach has been more, I guess, conservative in a way, because he hasn't turned the ball over. And yeah, the stats haven't necessarily popped off the page, but I think we were kind of asking them to do two different things. Like when Wilson was coming back, it was all right. He needs to settle in and be able to just run this offense, which to me, I've seen him do that a little bit more. Where with Sam, it was when he was coming back, you wanted to see a little bit more flash, and he gave you that too. Um, Sam statistically probably is going to finish with the better rookie year unless something crazy happens with Zach in this final week. But I don't think that necessarily means that, you know, Zach's career is going to be worse than Sam's because of that. Like Baker probably looked the best in 2018 out of all those quarterbacks. And now Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are the best two from that class.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the biggest difference between the Sam Darnold season and this is driving me crazy because whenever we're like, oh, Zach Wilson's finishing off the season strong, that's great. And then people are like, yeah, well, so did Sam Darnold. So that means he's going to be terrible in 3 years. Like they're not the same. Like they're not like time doesn't work that way. Situations don't pan out that way where you just, okay, Sam did well at the end of his first season with the Jets. Zach Wilson ends the season off with it doesn't work that way. So that's really my take on that. I think that it's a very good thing that Zach Wilson had great late season success. His progression is really good, and that should give Jets fans a lot of excitement. Broadway NYJ Matt says 6 times Zach Wilson has had a wide receiver get tackled at the 1 yard line, leading to a rushing touchdown. Add these touchdowns to his stats.
We should.
I agree because the amount of times that like Zach Wilson could have had a touchdown but didn't, whether it's play call or whether it's, Keelan Cole going down the 1 yard line. There's like some part of me when I'm watching games like bad Zach Wilson stats, throw the ball 3 times. I want him to get a passing touchdown. But obviously they're not really thinking that way. They want to get the ball in the end zone no matter how it is. So what are your thoughts about this? Do you think that we should start taking more consideration about this stats-wise?
Like, I don't know. Sometimes stats don't tell the full story. You really need to watch, the full games and look at the tape and stuff like that. So I wish you could have stats and see like how many times, people have been tackled on the 1 yard on the 1 yard line there. But I agree. I think people get too caught up in looking at box score numbers and trying to decide if people are good or not based off that.
Yeah, the box scores can be so deceiving because it really is. Like if you watch the throws that he makes on Sunday, like even the stats against the Buccaneers just doesn't jump off the page at you. I mean, he had 220 something passing yards, 1 touchdown, and like 19 of 29 or something. Like that's not an amazing game statistically, but if you watch the game, that's why we're all like, that's his best game of the season based on all the throws that he made within the pocket and everything around him. And I think Jets fans, have a reason to be excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. So guys in the chat, we're going to end the stream in just about 5 minutes or so. So bring in any of your final questions that you might have for Matt and myself about Zach Wilson or anything to do with the draft or anything to do with the Jets. While we wait for that, I want to ask your thoughts about Robert Saleh and your thoughts about his rookie head coach season for the New York Jets this year.
Well, like with most rookies, it's been up and down, which was kind of expected. I really like his energy. I like his answers in the press conference. I like how he deals with the media. I think he does that very well. My biggest critique of Saleh, I think, is in-game management. I think that needs to improve, but that's kind of expected. This is his first year where he's worrying about a whole team and not just one side of the ball or a positional group. So I think it's something that is going to get better, or I hope it is going to get better the more he does it. But biggest critique would probably be like in-game management stuff with him.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's things that he needs to work on. There's sometimes it feels like every game that whether it's a third quarter or the fourth quarter, we're forced to burn a timeout and you're like, that timeout could be worth something. And, that 4th and 2 mishap, whether that was the coaching staff or Zach Wilson. What's your thoughts about that whole thing? I know you made an entire video on it and the SNY crew had those, I actually enjoy watching that, but for the past couple of weeks, the SNY post-game show and pre-game show, I've noticed it's been like pretty consistent. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but I know you know what I'm talking about. So what are your thoughts about that whole situation?
Yeah, it's just frustrating because that's supposed to be your home network. And I know, like, I'm not saying that Zach, you can't criticize him, but to me, it didn't feel like criticism. It felt like they had this preconceived notion about him, and they were just sticking with that. To me, it's they either wanted to keep Sam or they preferred Justin Fields, which is fine. Like I get that, but it just didn't seem fair. It seemed like a more personal attack than legitimate and professional criticism, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like that all the time. Like, I love Steve Gelbs because I know you're a Mets fan, so you probably
Yep.
know Steve Gelbs through SNY for a while. I was happy he took that job to be like the host. But those three guys, it seems like they just have an agenda against Zach, where when he doesn't play well, you have a right to criticize him. But to call him selfish in that manner, in that way, I just feel like it was a simple miscommunication from the coaching staff and you said it in your video, Matt. This is the season to get that out of the way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like this is the season where, you have those miscommunications, you have those coaching mishaps, you have all that because hey, we're a 4-win team. And this is the year where we're not trying to go to the playoffs. We're trying to build a foundation here. So that's another question I have about the foundation that we built. That's what the approach was going into the season for Robert Saleh, playing the kids, cutting Bless Austin, giving Brendan Eccles a starting job. He knew that there's going to be a lot of ups and downs because he wanted to give these young players an opportunity to prove to be part of the foundation. I think Michael Carter II has proved to be a starter in this league at the slot. Elijah Moore, all these guys that we have on the offensive defense. So what are your thoughts about the foundation and the nucleus that we have under Robert Saleh in year number one in terms for the future? How excited should Jets fans be just in terms of the foundation that we have underneath Robert Saleh?
I think fans should be very excited. I know, like this team needs help. We're not going to say otherwise. They very clearly do. But there are some key building blocks on this team, and they're the youngest team in the NFL too. Like I think people have to realize that sometimes when they're making these mistakes, is how young they are and how inexperienced they are, and they should all grow together. And I think we'll see that next year. I think we'll see everyone take a step on both sides of the ball. Like I know the defense was really bad, but injuries matter. They lost pretty much all their edge rushers this year. Carl Lawson didn't play at all. Vin Curry didn't play at all. Bryce Huff played maybe 5 games, something like that. He barely played. And they were really depleted. And that to me is what the strength of this team is going to be, their pass rush. So I like that they have an identity. I like that they have a young core, and I think they have some nice building blocks here.
And another quick question to throw back at you. I want to hear your thoughts about Quinnen Williams. Do you think that the Jets should consider extending him this year because now he's going to be eligible? So what are your thoughts about Quinnen? Should they rather him going into his 4th year and then pick up his 5th-year option? Should they lock him up long term? What do you think about Quinnen Williams?
I think you do pay him. And I know some people are saying, oh, that Joe Douglas isn't going to pay him because he's a McCagnon guy. And I don't think that's really fair. Like, I know we did see some changes with him trading away Jamal Adams. Marcus May's probably not going to be back, trading away Sam Darnold and stuff like that. But I feel like those circumstances were a little bit different. And with this defense in particular, or just this team in particular, one of their things is they want to get after the passer. So if you rush the passer, I think you're going to get paid. Quinnen's very good on the interior. I thought he had a really good start to the year. I think he's kind of tailed off a little bit and then, a little banged up here and there too, which doesn't help. But I do think he's worthy of a contract extension, and I would like to see him here for the long haul.
And we also haven't seen Quinnen Williams yet with a dominant edge rusher. Like we were expecting Carl Lawson to be there. And John Franklin Myers is playing out of position. Like he's a good edge rusher, but he's more of a D tackle. And if you can, draft an edge in the first round, Carl Lawson's back healthy, and then you have those two on the edge, and then Quinnen Williams and John Franklin Myers on the inside with rotating Rankins. And I don't know about Foley because he's definitely a free agent, so I don't know if he's going to be brought back. But the defensive line is where this defense starts and finishes. And I think that's the biggest reason why this Jets defense is very inconsistent this year. And the reason why the defense gave up so many yardage and so many points night in and night out, it just felt really frustrating. It's because of the lack of consistency getting to the quarterback. So, guys, we're going to wrap up the stream here. We appreciate everybody in the chat giving us all the Jets takes, everybody disagreeing with each other, going crazy. We love it. We love it. Matthew, yes, there is an AFC East roundtable tonight. Don't know whose channel it's on. Might be Master at Works, but tune in. I'll be talking some crap to TD Finstock because the Dolphins are officially eliminated, and the Jets are coming off a loss, but a very good loss, if I had to say. So I got a lot of stuff to talk about on the AFC's roundtable, so tune in for that tonight. Matt, anything you'd like to say before I let you go? What you got headed on your channel in the off season, or anything you got coming up?
Yeah, man. You could always, if you don't already, follow along with me at Matt O'Leary NY on YouTube or social media. Just going to be reviewing this year, positives, negatives, and then getting into some off-season talk, which is always fun. So check it out.
Off-season talk is always the best, in my opinion. Until we start winning, it's gonna be different when that's the case. Guys, if you enjoy the stream and you're still in here and you did not smash that like button, please make sure you do so. Let's try to get 100 likes. We got 64 likes with around 150 you guys in the chat. So smash that thumbs up button if you guys enjoyed, and also make sure you check out Matt O'Leary's channel. It's down below in the description. Great Jets content, comes out with videos every day, recapping, previewing, and he's gonna have a lot of stuff throughout the offseason, a lot of fun things planned. So Matt, always a pleasure having you on. Definitely want to have you back on the channel throughout the offseason, talk about some draft, free agency talk, trade talk. And yeah, hope everything's going well with you. And let's go Jets. And let's finish off the season with a W. Hey, why not?
Love it.
I don't know.
Let's do it, man. I'm all in.
Later, Bills. We coming, Josh Allen. Peace.